My husband threw me out after believing his daughter's lies. 3 weeks later, he asked if I'd reflected. I gave him divorce papers and his daughter lost it. The text message came while I was grocery shopping on a Tuesday afternoon. Pack your things. You need to leave tonight. My hands went numb. The phone nearly slipped from my grip as I stood frozen in the produce section, surrounded by the ordinary bustle of people selecting vegetables. I read it again. Then a third time. No context. No explanation. Just those 8 words from my husband of 6 years. I abandoned my half-filled cart and walked to my car in a daze, my mind racing through possibilities. Had something happened to his mother? Was there an emergency? But the coldness of those words suggested something else entirely. The drive home took 12 minutes. Each one felt like an hour. Marcus was waiting in the living room, standing rather than sitting, his arms crossed over his chest. His face wore an expression I'd never seen before, disgust mixed with something approaching hatred. In the 6 years we'd been married, through his mother's cancer scare and my father's death, through job losses and financial stress, he'd never looked at me like this. Marcus, what's going on? Don't pretend you don't know. His voice was ice. I genuinely have no idea what you're talking about. He pulled out his phone, jabbed at the screen, and turned it toward me. Chloe told me everything. Chloe. His daughter. 22 years old, graduated from college last year, currently finding herself while living in our basement rent-free. On the screen was a text conversation, but the angle and distance made it impossible to read. Told you what? Can I see that? He yanked the phone back. You've been sabotaging her. Undermining her confidence. Making her life miserable in her own home. The accusation was so absurd, so disconnected from reality, that I actually laughed. Wrong move. Marcus's face darkened. You think this is funny? My daughter is downstairs crying because of you, and you're laughing? I'm laughing because this is insane. I haven't done anything to Chloe. We barely interact. Exactly. You ignore her. You make her feel unwelcome. You told her she was wasting her life. I never said that. Marcus, please, can we sit down and talk about this? There's been some kind of misunderstanding. The only misunderstanding was me thinking you actually cared about my daughter. She's been suffering for months, and I was too blind to see it. He moved toward the stairs. I want you out. Tonight. This is my home too. You can't just throw me out based on whatever Chloe said without even hearing my side. Your side? He turned back, his face flushed. What side? Are you going to tell me my daughter is lying? The same daughter who's been in therapy dealing with anxiety because of the toxic environment you've created? Therapy. Chloe had mentioned starting therapy 2 months ago. I'd actually been happy about it, thinking maybe she'd finally start addressing whatever was keeping her stuck in this extended adolescence. I'm not saying she's lying. I'm saying there's been a miscommunication. Maybe she misinterpreted something I said, or, get out. I mean it, Jennifer. Pack a bag and go. We can figure out the details later, but I can't even look at you right now. The finality in his voice made my stomach drop. This wasn't anger that would cool with time. Something fundamental had shifted. I climbed the stairs to our bedroom on autopilot, pulled a suitcase from the closet, and began filling it with clothes. My hands shook as I grabbed toiletries from the bathroom. This couldn't be happening. We just celebrated our anniversary 3 weeks ago. We'd laughed over dinner, made plans for a trip to Seattle in the fall. Downstairs, I could hear Marcus's voice, low and soothing, presumably talking to Chloe. I couldn't make out the words, but the tone was gentle. Protective. The tone he'd used with her since she was 5 years old and he'd become a single father after his wife left them both. I understood his fierce protectiveness of her. I'd always understood it. Maybe I'd been too understanding, too accommodating. Too willing to step back and let the relationship take precedence over building any real connection with her myself. When I came downstairs with my suitcase, Marcus was waiting by the door. Where will you go? Does it matter? I'm not a monster, Jennifer. I just need time to process this. Time to process what? You still haven't told me what I supposedly did. He pulled out his phone again, scrolled for a moment, then read aloud. She told me I was pathetic for not having a real job yet. She said I was draining you financially and emotionally. She said she couldn't wait until I finally moved out so you could have your house back. She made comments about my weight every time I ate. She threw away my leftovers claiming they were old when they weren't. She deleted my job applications from the computer. With each accusation, my disbelief grew. None of it was true. Not a single word. Marcus, I never said any of those things. I never threw away her food. I don't even use the computer in the basement where she works on her applications. Stop. He held up his hand. Just stop. I saw the text messages between you and your sister. Chloe showed me. My sister. Emily. What text messages? The ones where you complained about Chloe. Where you called her a mooch. Where you said you were at your breaking point. I'd never sent messages like that to Emily. We talked on the phone, sure, and yes, I'd occasionally expressed frustration about the situation, but I'd never put anything like that in writing. I wasn't stupid enough to create a permanent record of private venting. But saying that now would just sound like a guilty person backpedaling. I want to see these messages. No. I'm not putting Chloe through more pain by making this into an interrogation. She's already devastated. She's been living in fear of you for months, and I failed her. I should have seen it. The conviction in his voice told me everything I needed to know. He'd made up his mind. Nothing I said now would change it. I picked up my suitcase. I'll stay with Emily. But Marcus, this isn't over. You're making a huge mistake. The mistake was not listening to my daughter sooner. The door closed behind me with a soft click that felt louder than any slam. Emily lived 40 minutes away in a smaller apartment than she'd like to admit. She was home when I arrived, surprise and concern flooding her face as she opened the door to find me standing there with a suitcase and presumably an expression that matched my internal devastation. What happened? I told her everything while sitting on her warm couch, the words spilling out between tears I couldn't control. Emily listened without interrupting, her expression growing increasingly angry. Those text messages he mentioned, she said slowly. Do you think Chloe faked them? I don't know how she would. They'd have to come from my number. There are apps. You can spoof numbers. Create fake text conversations. I've seen them. Emily grabbed her laptop and started typing. Look, there are dozens of websites and apps that let you create realistic-looking text screenshots. You put in whatever names and numbers you want, type out fake conversations, and boom. Perfect evidence of things that never happened. I stared at the screen, at the various examples of fabricated text conversations. They looked completely real? But why? Why would Chloe do this? Emily gave me a long look. You really don't know? Don't know what? Jenny, she's been jealous of you since day one. I watched it. The way she gets uncomfortable when Marcus shows you affection. How she always needs something right when you two are trying to have a moment together. Last Christmas, remember? You and Marcus were about to head out for your anniversary dinner, and suddenly she had a crisis about her resume that couldn't wait. I did remember. We'd ended up postponing the dinner by 2 hours while Marcus helped Chloe workshop her cover letter for a job she never actually applied for. I thought she was just anxious. Struggling with the transition to adulthood. Maybe. Or maybe she's realized that as long as she's struggling, Daddy will never fully commit to his wife. You're the interloper. The threat to their little unit. That's a horrible way to think about your parent's spouse. It's also a horrible way to be 22 years old and still living in your father's basement without paying rent or doing anything productive with your life. I'm just saying she has motivation. She gets you out of the picture, she has her father all to herself again. The theory felt too calculated, too malicious. Chloe had always been a bit immature, sure, but this would require genuine deception. Planning. Malice. Then again, I'd have said Marcus would never throw me out of my own home without even a conversation. This week was apparently full of surprises. What do I do? You prove she's lying. You fight back. Emily's jaw was set in that stubborn way that had gotten her through law school while working full-time. First, you document everything. Write down every interaction you've had with Chloe. Every conversation. Anything that could be twisted. Then we get your phone records, show there are no texts to me saying those things. We gather evidence. He won't listen. He's already decided. Then you make him listen. But Jenny, you need to be prepared for the possibility that even with evidence, he might choose her. She's his daughter. You're his wife. If he feels like he has to pick, biology might win. The thought made me nauseous. I love him. I know you do. But does he love you enough to see past his blind spot? That's the question. I spent 3 days at Emily's apartment, calling in sick to work and oscillating between grief and rage. Marcus didn't call. Didn't text. Radio silence. On the 4th day, I returned to work at the elementary school where I'd been a reading specialist for 11 years. The kids were a welcome distraction, their problems blessedly simple compared to the wreckage of my personal life. During lunch, I finally worked up the courage to text Marcus. We need to talk about this like adults. I deserve a chance to defend myself. His response came 2 hours later. I need time. Chloe is really struggling with all this. Give me space. Space. As if I were the one who'd blown up our marriage without warning. Emily had connected me with a friend of hers from law school, a divorce attorney named Patricia Vance. I met with her on a Friday afternoon, still hoping it wouldn't come to that but needing to understand my options. Patricia was 50-ish, with sharp eyes and a manner that radiated confidence. She listened to my story without judgment, taking notes on a yellow legal pad. So your husband forced you out based on accusations from his adult daughter, accusations you say are false, and he won't even discuss it with you? Correct. And you've been living in the marital home for 6 years, correct? You're on the deed? Yes. We bought it together 4 years ago. Both our names are on everything. Good. He can't legally bar you from the property. She tapped her pen against the pad. Though I understand you not wanting to force the issue by just showing up. I don't want it to get ugly. Jennifer, it's already ugly. The question is whether you want to fight or fold. If these accusations are false, you need to defend yourself. Not just for the marriage, but for your own reputation. If this goes forward, you need documentation that you disputed everything from the start. I want to save my marriage. Then save it by standing up for yourself. Agreeing to exile based on lies isn't going to make him respect you. It's going to confirm whatever narrative he's built in his head. She leaned forward. Here's what I recommend. Give it 2 weeks. Let him have his space, but document everything in the meantime. Keep a detailed timeline. Gather evidence. Then we send a formal letter requesting a mediation session where all parties can present their concerns. If he refuses, you'll know he's not interested in the truth. 2 weeks felt like an eternity, but I agreed. I spent those 2 weeks living with Emily and reconstructing my life. I went through my phone records. No text to Emily matching what Chloe claimed. I documented every interaction I could remember having with Chloe over the past year, no matter how minor. The picture that emerged was stark. I'd been polite but distant. Chloe and I had never bonded, but I'd never been cruel. Most of our conversations were functional. Dinner's ready. Have you seen the remote? Marcus will be home late. I'd never told her she was pathetic. Never commented on her weight. Never done any of the things she'd accused me of. What I had done, I realized, was failed to be sufficiently deferential. I'd stated opinions when asked. I'd expected her to follow basic household rules like cleaning up after herself. I'd suggested, gently, that she might benefit from setting some goals when Marcus asked my opinion. Had she twisted those moments into something darker? Or had she simply fabricated everything whole cloth? On day 11 of my exile, my friend Diane from work called. Hey, I just saw something weird. Thought you should know. What? I was at Target, and I ran into Marcus. With Chloe. They were buying stuff for the house. New bedding, decorations, kitchen stuff. They seemed really happy. My stomach clenched. Did they see you? Yeah. I said hi. Asked how you were doing. Marcus got really cold, said you were dealing with some personal stuff. Chloe just smiled. It was weird, Jenny. Like she was pleased. After we hung up, I sat staring at the wall. They were redecorating. Making the house theirs. Erasing me. Emily found me like that an hour later. You okay? They're redecorating our house. Then it's time to stop playing nice. She grabbed her phone. I'm calling Patricia. The letter went out on a Monday via certified mail. It was professionally worded but firm, requesting a mediation session to address the allegations and work toward resolution. It noted that I disputed all claims and had evidence supporting my position. It requested a response within 5 business days. Marcus called on day 3. What the heck is this? A lawyer's letter? Are you serious right now? You wouldn't talk to me. What choice did I have? This is exactly the kind of manipulative behavior Chloe warned me about. You're trying to strong-arm me. I'm trying to defend myself against false accusations. There's a difference. They're not false. I've seen the evidence. Evidence that can be faked. Marcus, please, just agree to sit down with a mediator. Let's actually talk through this with a neutral third party. If I'm lying, it'll come out. If Chloe is lying, that'll come out too. Silence on the line. Then, you're calling my daughter a liar. I'm saying someone isn't telling the truth, and I know it's not me. Please. For our marriage. Just agree to one session. More silence. I'll think about it. He hung up. 2 days later, his own lawyer's letter arrived. He was refusing mediation. He wanted a separation with the intent to divorce. He'd agree to a fair division of assets but wanted me to acknowledge my role in creating a hostile environment for Chloe. The paper shook in my hands as I read it. He was actually going through with this. 6 years of marriage, destroyed because his daughter had decided I was the enemy. Fight back, Emily said. Stop trying to preserve something that's already gone. She was right. I'd been clinging to the hope that Marcus would come to his senses, but he'd made his choice. Now I needed to make mine. I called Patricia. File the paperwork. I want a divorce. Are you sure? I'm not going to beg someone to believe me. If Marcus wants to throw away our marriage based on lies, that's his decision. But I'm not going to make it easy. I want what I'm entitled to, and I want it on record that I disputed these allegations from day one. Understood. I'll draft the petition. 3 weeks after Marcus had thrown me out, my phone buzzed with a text from him. Can we talk? I think it's time you reflected on your behavior and we discussed how to move forward. The audacity nearly made me throw my phone across the room. He wanted me to reflect? As if I were a child being called to the principal's office? As if I'd spent 3 weeks thinking about my wrongdoing and was ready to apologize? I took a screenshot of the message and sent it to Patricia with a simple note. This arrived an hour before he's scheduled to be served with divorce papers. Thoughts? Her response was immediate, perfect timing. Don't respond yet. Let him be served first. The process server showed up at our house at 4 p.m. on a Wednesday. I wasn't there to see it, but Emily's investigator friend had suggested we have someone document the interaction, just in case. A colleague of his sat in a car across the street with a camera. According to his report, Marcus answered the door looking confused. He signed for the envelope, opened it while still standing in the doorway, and his expression shifted from confusion to shock to something like anger. He'd stood there for a full minute reading, then went back inside without a word. 30 seconds later, Chloe came running out of the house, bare feet on the concrete, looking around frantically. The investigator noted that she appeared extremely agitated and stayed outside for nearly 5 minutes before going back in. Interesting reaction from someone who supposedly just wanted her father to be free of his toxic wife. My phone started ringing at 4:47 p.m. Marcus. I let it go to voicemail. He called 4 more times over the next hour. I didn't answer. Finally, a text, Jennifer, what the heck? Divorce papers? I thought we were going to talk. I waited 30 minutes before responding, keeping my message brief and cold. There's nothing to discuss. You made your choice. I'm making mine. This is insane. Can you please just call me? Any communication should go through our lawyers. Don't do this. Please. I turned off my phone. Emily hugged me when I started crying. This is good. You're taking control back. Then why does it feel so awful? Because you still love him? But Jenny, he threw you out. He believed lies about you without even giving you a fair hearing. Love isn't enough when there's no respect. The next few days were a barrage of attempted contact. Marcus called from different numbers. He showed up at Emily's apartment, but we didn't answer. He sent emails. Long ones, saying we needed to talk, saying the divorce was premature, saying we could work this out if I'd just communicate with him. Never once did he say he believed me. Never once did he acknowledge that maybe, just maybe, Chloe had lied. Patricia was delighted. Every communication where he doesn't admit wrongdoing helps our case. He's creating a record of pushing this reconciliation while still implicitly maintaining you were in the wrong. It's perfect. It doesn't feel perfect. It will when you're not giving up half your home equity and retirement savings for nothing. Keep ignoring him. On day 5 of his bombardment, something shifted. The tone of his messages changed from pleading to angry. I can't believe you're being this petty. After everything I've done for you, you're just going to throw away our marriage without even trying to work on yourself? Work on myself. As if I were the problem. I forwarded it to Patricia without comment. Her response, discovery is going to be very interesting. Discovery. The phase where both sides had to turn over evidence. Phone records. Emails. Text messages. Financial documents. I'd forgotten about that part. Chloe made her first direct move 2 weeks into the divorce process. She sent me a Facebook message at 11 p.m. on a Saturday. "I hope you're happy. You've destroyed my dad. He hasn't slept in days. He can't eat. This is all your fault. You came into our lives and ruined everything. I wish he'd never met you." I stared at the message for a long time before screenshotting it and sending it to Patricia. "Do not respond," she wrote back immediately. "This is gold. She's establishing a pattern of animosity. Save everything." So I saved it. Along with a follow-up message that came an hour later: "You're a horrible person. Everyone knows it. Even your own sister probably thinks you're pathetic." And another one at 2 a.m. "Dad's too nice to say it, but you trapped him. You knew he wanted someone to help with me after Mom left, and you pretended to care. But you never did. You just wanted his money and his house." 3 messages, progressively more unhinged, all saved and documented. I didn't respond to any of them. 2 days later, Chloe tried a different approach. She posted on Facebook about the importance of family and standing by the people you love even when others try to tear you apart. No names, but the implication was clear. Several people liked it. A few left supportive comments. Then my friend Meredith, who'd known me for 20 years and taught at the same school, commented, "Context matters. Not everything is as simple as it looks from the outside." Chloe deleted the entire post within an hour. The first settlement conference was scheduled for early November, 6 weeks after I'd been thrown out. Patricia had spent those weeks gathering evidence, deposing witnesses, and building our case. "I have to be honest," she told me the day before the conference. "This is unusual. Most of my cases involve pretty clear-cut issues. Money. Infidelity. Abuse. This is," she said with a third party throwing gasoline on the fire. "What are our chances?" "Of what? Getting a fair settlement? Very good. Your name is on everything, you've been married 6 years, and there's no prenup. Of proving Chloe lied? Harder? We can show the text messages to your sister don't exist in your phone records, but we can't prove she fabricated evidence without access to her devices. The best we can do is make it clear you've disputed everything from the start and let the judge draw conclusions." "What about Marcus? What if he realizes he made a mistake?" Patricia gave me a gentle look. "Do you want him back?" Did I? A month ago, the answer would have been an immediate yes. Now, after everything, I wasn't sure. The man who'd thrown me out without a conversation wasn't the man I'd married. Either he'd changed, or I'd never really known him. I don't know. Then keep your options open. Go into this conference with dignity. Answer honestly. Don't let them bait you into anger. And Jennifer? Don't accept blame for things you didn't do. Not even to smooth things over. The conference room was aggressively neutral, all beige walls and bland landscape prints. Marcus and his attorney, a sharp-looking woman named Brenda Chen, were already seated when Patricia and I arrived. Marcus looked terrible. He'd lost weight, and there were dark circles under his eyes. Part of me wanted to comfort him. The stronger part remembered that he'd done this to us. "Thank you for agreeing to this conference," the mediator began. She was a grandmotherly woman named Susan Park who specialized in family law disputes. "The goal today is to see if we can reach an agreement without going to trial. Let's start with the division of assets." The next hour was a tedious discussion of who got what. The house. The cars. The retirement accounts. Our savings. Marcus wanted to keep the house, which was fine by me. I'd never be able to live there again anyway. I wanted my fair share of the equity. His attorney pushed back. "Given the circumstances that led to this divorce, we feel my client is entitled to greater consideration." "What circumstances?" Patricia's voice was sharp. "The circumstances where he threw my client out of her own home based on unverified accusations from his daughter?" "The accusations are verified. We have evidence. Evidence we've yet to see. My client's phone records show no such text messages to her sister. We have sworn affidavits from multiple friends and colleagues attesting to her character. We have documentation that she's disputed these claims from day one. What you have are screenshots that could have been created by anyone with a smartphone and an internet connection." Brenda's jaw tightened. "Are you accusing a young woman of fabricating evidence?" "I'm saying my client denies the accusations, and you haven't provided proof beyond said young woman's word." Marcus spoke up for the first time. "Chloe wouldn't lie about this." "Mr. Porter," Susan interrupted gently, "this conference is about the divorce settlement, not relitigating the causes. Let's focus on the practical matters." We haggled for another 90 minutes. By the end, We'd reached a tentative agreement. I'd get 40% of the house equity, half the savings, and my full retirement account. Marcus would keep the house and his retirement. We'd each keep our own cars. It was less than I could have fought for, but it was fair enough that I could walk away with my head up. Before we finalize, Susan said, "Is there anything either party would like to say?" Marcus looked at me for the first time since the conference started. "I just want to understand. How did we get here?" "We were happy." "You threw me out, Marcus. You believed accusations without even asking for my side. You chose to believe I was capable of cruelty based on nothing but your daughter's word. How were we ever supposed to come back from that? She's my daughter. What was I supposed to do? Talk to me. Ask questions. Show me the evidence and let me respond. Treat me like a partner instead of an enemy. Any of those would have been better than what you did." She was so convincing. She had proof. Proof of text messages that don't exist in my phone records. Proof of conversations no one else witnessed. Proof that conveniently painted me as a monster and her as a victim. I kept my voice steady. "Did you ever ask yourself why she'd suddenly have all this evidence after living with us for 18 months? Why she'd wait until now to tell you?" Something flickered across his face. Doubt, maybe. But Brenda put a hand on his arm. "Don't answer that. We're done here," Patricia said. "Unless Mr. Porter is prepared to acknowledge that my client might have been wronged, I see no point in further discussion. We'll submit the settlement for the judge's approval." I thought that would be the end of it. Sign the papers, divide the assets, move on. But I'd underestimated Chloe's investment in the outcome. 3 days after the conference, she showed up at my school. I was in the middle of a reading group with 5 second graders when the classroom door opened and Chloe walked in. The kids looked up, confused. So did I. "Can I help you?" I kept my voice professional. "This is a closed classroom. We need to talk. I'm working. Please leave, or I'll call security." She didn't move. "You're destroying my dad. He's falling apart because of you." One of the kids, a little boy named Ethan, looked scared. I stood, positioning myself between Chloe and the children. "Kids, I need you to go next door to Mrs. Peterson's room. Take your books." They scattered, grateful for an excuse to leave the tense atmosphere. Once they were gone, I turned to Chloe. "You have 60 seconds before I call security. Say what you came to say. Drop the divorce. Tell your lawyer you made a mistake. Fix this." "Why would I do that?" "Because you're destroying a good man over nothing." "Over nothing?" "You accused me of abusing you. You presented fake evidence. You convinced your father to throw me out of my own home. And now you want me to just... what? Pretend none of that happened?" I didn't lie. But her voice wavered slightly. "Yes, you did. We both know it. The question is whether your father will ever figure it out." "He won't. Because I'm his daughter, and you're just some woman he married. I'll always be more important." The mask had slipped. This was the real Chloe. Not the victim, not the anxious young woman struggling with life transitions. This was someone who'd calculated exactly how to remove a threat. "Why do you hate me so much? I never did anything to you. You exist. That's enough. Dad was mine until you came along. We were fine, just the two of us. Then you showed up and suddenly I had to share him. Do you know what that's like? Watching your father fall in love with someone else and knowing you're not the most important person in his life anymore? That's not how love works. He doesn't have a limited supply." "Yes, he does. And I want all of it." She stepped closer. "So do what you need to do. Divorce him. Take your money and go. But if you ever try to tell him I lied, I'll destroy you worse than I already have." "Is that a threat?" "It's a promise." She turned and walked out, leaving me standing alone in the classroom with my heart racing. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands and texted Patricia, "You're not going to believe what just happened." But I didn't call security. I didn't make a scene. Because this time, I'd been smart enough to have my phone recording in my pocket the entire conversation. "This changes everything," Patricia said when I played her the recording. "This is a confession." She admitted to lying. "She threatened you." "Can we use it? In the divorce?" "Absolutely. It goes to the question of who's telling the truth. And Jennifer, this is grounds for a restraining order. She came to your workplace, confronted you in front of children, and threatened you. I don't want a restraining order. I want Marcus to hear this." Patricia considered. "We could play it at the next hearing. But Jenny, you need to prepare yourself for the possibility that even hearing this, he might not believe it. Or he might find a way to justify it. Cognitive dissonance is powerful, especially when it involves your kids. I still want him to hear it. Then he will. The final hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks later. In the meantime, I'd gotten multiple panicked messages from Marcus. His tone had shifted yet again, now oscillating between anger and desperation. Chloe told me you cornered her at your school. Is that true? Please just tell me what I need to do to fix this. My lawyer says you're going after a bigger settlement now. This is vindictive. I didn't respond to any of them. Let him wonder. Let him stress. He put me through enough. Turnabout seemed fair. The day before the hearing, Emily took me shopping for a new outfit. You need to look put together. Strong. Like someone who's moved on. I chose a navy suit that made me feel professional and competent. Not like someone who'd spent the last 2 months crying into her sister's couch cushions. The courthouse was imposing, all marble and echoes. Marcus was already there with Brenda when we arrived. He looked even worse than at the conference, his face drawn and pale. Judge Michael Richardson was younger than I'd expected, maybe early 50s, with wire-rimmed glasses and an air of no-nonsense efficiency. He listened as both attorneys outlined the basic facts of the case, occasionally asking clarifying questions. So the catalyst for this divorce was accusations made by Mr. Porter's daughter regarding Mrs. Porter's treatment of her, is that correct? Yes, Your Honor, Brenda confirmed. And Mrs. Porter disputes these accusations? Vehemently, Your Honor, Patricia said. In fact, we have evidence that suggests the accusations were fabricated. Marcus's head snapped up. Brenda looked surprised. Your Honor, this is the first we're hearing of any such evidence. Because it was obtained recently. We'd like to enter it into the record. Patricia held up her phone. This is a recording of a conversation between Mrs. Porter and Miss Porter that took place on school grounds on November 8. Miss Porter approached Mrs. Porter at her workplace, demanded she drop the divorce, and admitted to fabricating the allegations. The courtroom went very quiet. Let's hear it, Judge Richardson said. Patricia played the recording. The audio quality wasn't perfect, but Chloe's words came through clearly enough. I didn't lie. Followed by, he won't. Because I'm his daughter, and you're just some woman he married. And finally, the damning part, so do what you need to do. Divorce him. Take your money and go. But if you ever try to tell him I lied, I'll destroy you worse than I already have. Marcus's face went from pale to ashen. He turned to look at Brenda, who was furiously scribbling notes, her expression professionally neutral but her jaw tight. Your Honor, Brenda started, but Judge Richardson held up a hand. Mr. Porter, did you hear that recording? Yes. That's your daughter's voice? Marcus nodded, looking like he might be sick. And based on what I just heard, it appears that the allegations that led to you removing your wife from the marital home were, at minimum, exaggerated. Possibly fabricated entirely. Is that a fair assessment? Your Honor, we'd need time to verify the authenticity of this recording, Brenda tried. Ms. Chen, that's clearly your client's daughter. We're not in a criminal trial here. I'm simply trying to establish the facts of this divorce. He turned back to Marcus. Mr. Porter? I don't know what to think right now. Then let me help you think. You threw your wife out of her home based on accusations that appear to have been false. You refused to even discuss it with her. You refused mediation. You pushed forward with divorce proceedings while maintaining she was at fault. And now we have a recording of your daughter essentially admitting to lying and threatening your wife. Does that sum it up? I thought I was protecting my daughter. I'm sure you did. But the result is that you've treated your wife abominably based on false information. So here's what's going to happen. Mrs. Porter is going to get 60% of the house equity, not 40%. She's also going to get a full accounting of any separate assets you might have claimed as solely yours. And you're going to pay her attorney's fees, because she's had to defend herself against accusations that were apparently manufactured. Your Honor, that's extremely punitive, Brenda objected. It's fair, Ms. Chen. Your client made a choice. Now he gets to live with the consequences. Anything else? Patricia stood. One more thing, Your Honor. We'd like to request that the court order Mr. Porter to provide Miss Porter's phone records and any devices she used to create the fake text message screenshots. If she fabricated evidence, there may be apps or search history that proves it. Marcus's eyes widened. He looked at Brenda, who shook her head slightly. I'll allow it, Judge Richardson said. Discovery shall include Miss Porter's devices and phone records. Will reconvene in 30 days for a status conference. Dismissed. Outside the courtroom, Marcus caught up with me before I could reach my car. Jennifer, wait. Please. I stopped but didn't turn around immediately. When I did, I kept my expression neutral. What? I am so sorry. I don't even know what to say. You could start with believing me 2 months ago when I told you I didn't do what Chloe said. I know, and I can't explain why I didn't. She was so convincing. She had those screenshots. I thought I was being a good father. By being a terrible husband. He flinched. Yes. By being a terrible husband. Jennifer, is there any way we can fix this? Any way you could forgive me? I looked at this man I'd loved for 6 years, this man who'd shared my bed and my life and my dreams of growing old together. And I felt nothing. Or maybe not nothing. Maybe sadness for what we'd lost. But not love. Not anymore. I don't think so, Marcus. Even if I could forgive you for believing Chloe, I can't forgive you for how you handled it. You threw me out like garbage. You wouldn't talk to me. You made me feel crazy for defending myself. That's not something you do to someone you love. I do love you. No, you don't. Not really. Because if you did, you would have given me the benefit of the doubt. You would have at least listened to my side before making me leave. But you chose Chloe without a second thought, and that tells me exactly where I rank in your priorities. She's my daughter. What was I supposed to do? Believe your wife. Or at least investigate before destroying our marriage. There were so many options between believe Chloe completely and throw Jennifer out immediately, but you didn't even consider them. I hefted my bag higher on my shoulder. I'm done, Marcus. Sign the papers. Pay what the judge ordered. And maybe, someday, figure out why you were so ready to believe the worst about me. Jenny, don't call me that. You lost that right. I walked to my car, got in, and drove away without looking back. The next month was a blur of paperwork and logistics. Marcus's lawyer tried to negotiate down the settlement, but Patricia held firm. The judge had spoken. Marcus would pay. The most interesting development came from the phone records. Chloe had indeed used an app called TextFake app to create the screenshots of my supposed messages to Emily. The discovery process uncovered her search history, how to fake text messages, create realistic text screenshots, can fake text be traced. She planned it. Researched it. Executed it perfectly, except for forgetting that phone records would prove the text never existed. When confronted with this evidence, she'd apparently had a breakdown. Marcus sent me a long email about how she was back in therapy, how she'd admitted to feeling threatened by me, how she'd made terrible choices but was getting help. He asked, again, if there was any way to salvage our marriage. I didn't respond. The divorce was finalized 3 weeks before Christmas. I got my settlement, enough to put a substantial down payment on a small house of my own. Emily helped me move in, and we spent a weekend painting walls and hanging pictures and making the space mine. How do you feel? She asked as we collapsed on my new couch at the end of a long day. Free, I said. Sad. Angry. Relieved. All of it. That's normal. You went through something traumatic. I know. But I also learned something important. I learned that I'm strong enough to stand up for myself, even when it means losing something I love. I spent so much of that marriage trying to make everyone comfortable, trying not to rock the boat with Chloe, trying to be understanding about Marcus's protectiveness. And where did it get me? Thrown out of my own house. Never again, though, right? Never again. I ran into Marcus one more time, 6 months after the divorce was final. I was at the grocery store, ironically the same one where I'd gotten his text message telling me to leave. He was alone, looking older than his 47 years. Jennifer. Hi. Marcus. You look good. Happy. Thank you. I am. That's good. That's really good. He shifted his cart awkwardly. I wanted you to know, Chloe moved out. She got a job in Portland. We thought some distance might be healthy. I hope it helps. She wrote you a letter. An apology. I have it if you want it. No, thank you. You don't even want to read it? There's nothing she could say that would change anything. She made her choices. I made mine. We're all living with the consequences. I'm still living with them too. The house feels empty. I miss you. I miss us. I miss who we were too. But Marcus, we can't go back. Even if I wanted to, which I don't, too much has happened. You chose to believe I was capable of cruelty. That's not something I can forget. I know. I wanted you to know that I know I was wrong. About everything. You deserved better. Yes, I did. But thank you for saying it. He nodded, looking like he wanted to say more but recognizing there was nothing left to say. We went our separate directions down separate aisles, and I felt okay about it. Not happy, exactly. Not victorious. Just okay. Which, given everything, felt like enough. A year after the divorce, I was dating again. Nothing serious, just testing the waters with someone I'd met through a friend. His name was David, he taught high school math, and he made me laugh. We'd been seeing each other for 3 months when he asked about my previous marriage. I told him the story, all of it, while we sat on my back porch watching the sunset. That's heavy, he said when I finished. It was. But I learned a lot about myself. About what I will and won't accept. About standing up for myself even when it costs me. Do you regret how you handled it? The recording, the lawyer, all of it? No. I tried to handle it quietly at first. I tried to reason with him. He wouldn't listen. So I documented everything, proved my case, and walked away with my dignity. I'm proud of that. You should be. A lot of people would have just accepted being the villain in someone else's story. I did that for too long in the marriage. Accepted being less important than Chloe, accepted Marcus's protectiveness, accepted not having real boundaries. I won't make that mistake again. David squeezed my hand. Good. Because you deserve to be someone's priority. We sat in comfortable silence as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. My phone buzzed with a text from Emily, still coming to dinner Sunday? Bring David if you want. I smiled and typed back, we'll be there. Life had moved on. I had moved on. And while the ending of my marriage had been painful and ugly and unfair, it had also taught me something crucial. I was capable of standing up for myself, even when the person I loved most refused to stand with me. Sometimes the greatest act of self-love is walking away from people who refuse to see your worth. Even when it hurts. Even when you still love them. Even when it costs you everything you thought you wanted. Because in the end, I'd gained something more valuable than my marriage, I'd gained myself back. And that, finally, felt like the revenge I'd needed all along. Not destroying Marcus or Chloe. Not making them suffer the way they've made me suffer. Just proving to myself that I was strong enough to demand better, brave enough to fight for the truth, and wise enough to know when to walk away. The rest was just details. Epilogue. 2 years post-divorce, I got a Facebook friend request from Chloe. I stared at it for a long moment before declining. 3 months after that, Marcus sent me an email. The subject line read, "You were right." I almost deleted it without reading. But curiosity got the better of me. The email was short. Chloe had been fired from her job in Portland for lying about a coworker, claiming harassment that never happened. The situation had forced Marcus to finally confront the pattern he'd been enabling for years. His daughter had learned that playing the victim got her what she wanted, and he'd been her primary enabler. He was in therapy now, working through his guilt about his ex-wife leaving and how that had shaped his parenting. He'd realized he'd been so afraid of Chloe feeling abandoned again that he'd never held her accountable for anything. And I'd paid the price for his guilt. I don't expect forgiveness, the email ended. I don't even expect a response. I just wanted you to know that I finally understand what happened, and I'm sorry. You deserved so much better than what I gave you. I hope you found it. I closed the email without responding. Not out of spite, but because there was nothing left to say. He'd figured it out too late, and that was his burden to carry, not mine. I was busy building a life I actually wanted, with people who saw my worth and never made me question it. David had moved in 6 months ago. We were talking about getting married, but taking it slow, making sure we built a foundation of trust and communication and respect. The kind of foundation I should have insisted on the first time around. Live and learn, I guess. Sometimes the best revenge is living well, and I was finally learning how.